What if I told you that one of the biggest manufacturing opportunity in the world isn't building cars or manufacturing electronics or owning a massive factory? It is something you see almost every single day: paint. Now, here is the surprising part. Many people believe you need millions of dollars, a huge factory, or years of experience before you can become a paint manufacturer. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about this industry, because around the world, people are building successful paint manufacturing business from surprisingly small beginnings. Whether you are watching from Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa, Malawi, Cameroon, Liberia, India, China, or the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, or anywhere else, the opportunity exists not because every country is the same, but because every country builds every new houses, every schools, every hospital, every office, every hotel, every factory, every shopping mall needs paint. Construction creates demand, renovation creates demand, maintenance also creates demands. As long as people continue building, paint will continue to be needed. So maybe the better question isn't, can I start a paint manufacturing business? The real question is, what does it actually take to build one successfully? And that's what we are going to discover today. If that's true, why do some factories succeed while others fail? You see, if you have been searching online, you have probably seen videos promising one paint formula, one secret recipe, copy this formula and start making money. But here is what many beginners discover too late. Paint manufacturing isn't just about mixing chemical. If it were, every person with a formula would own a successful paint company, but they don't. Some factories invest millions, yet close within a few years. Others begin with modest resources and gradually become respected manufacturers. Why? Because successful manufacturers understand something that many beginners never learn. They understand something, not just formula. That is why I teach what I call the global paint manufacturing principle. Paint manufacturing is global because paint is manufactured in almost every country. Production systems are universal. The science of dispersion, mixing, quality control, costing, factory workflow, those principles don't change simply because you cross a border. But implementation is local, your customers are local, your suppliers are local, your regulation are local, your raw materials availability is local, your pricing is local, your competition is local, and the manufacturers who understand how to combine global knowledge with local implementation are the ones who build businesses that last. Throughout this video, I will show you exactly how that works. If you're just watching this channel for the first time, welcome. This documentary is part of our complete paint manufacturing business global startup series. Each episode answers one important question about building a paint manufacturing business. We start with understanding the industry, then move into market research, raw materials, factory setup, production system, quality control, business management, branding, sales, and scaling your company. If you're serious about building your own paint manufacturing business, don't stop with this documentary. I have linked the complete playlist in the description below. Watch every episode in order because each lesson builds on the one before it. By the end of this series, you'll have a much clearer understanding of what it really takes to build a paint manufacturing business in your own country. Now, before we go any further, you may have been wondering, Who is teaching me all this? Let me introduce myself. Hello, I am Coach Glina and welcome to Glina Paint Education. If your goal is to start a paint manufacturing business, build a small factory, understand professional paint production system, master paint formulation, learn paint chemistry, or grow a profitable paint manufacturing company, you are in the right place. For over 10 years, we have helped entrepreneurs from different countries understand manufacturing and take practical steps towards building their own paint businesses. On this channel, we teach you how to start a paint manufacturing business from scratch, understand professional paint production system, troubleshoot common production problem, improve paint quality, choose the right raw materials, build product customer trust, and grow a profitable paint manufacturing business. Here at Glina Paint Education, we don't just teach people how to make paint. We teach entrepreneurs how to think like a manufacturer, because formula can be copied, but understanding cannot. So you learn, understand, manufacture, and succeed. Let me share a story that has stayed with me for years. Some time ago, while traveling outside my country, I met a businessman who had invested heavily in building a paint factory. He had already spent a significant amount of money. He had equipment, he had ambition, he had a building, but the factory wasn't operating successful, not because paint didn't sell, not because there wasn't demand, but because he didn't have the right manufacturing system. He understood investment, but he didn't fully understand the business behind manufacturing. Years later, our paths crossed again. This time, he became one of my students. As we worked together, he began understanding the system behind successful paint manufacturing. Eventually, that professional relationship grew into a business partnership. That experience taught me something I will never forget. Sometimes, one conversation, one mentor, or one proven system can completely change the direction of a business, because knowledge applied correctly can save years of expensive mistakes. After working with entrepreneurs from different countries, I noticed the same pattern repeating itself. Most people believe the biggest challenge is learning paint formula. So they spend months, sometimes years, collecting formulation, downloading PDFs, watching short videos, copying recipe, thinking if I can just find the perfect formula, I'll be ready. But that's where many people get stuck, because learning paint formula is not the same as learning paint manufacturing. A formula tells you what to mix. It doesn't teach you why those raw materials were selected, how to adapt them to your country, how to source equivalent chemicals, how to control quality, how to calculate production cost, how to price your product, how to build a factory, or how to grow a profitable manufacturing business. That is why some people know hundreds of formulations, yet never become manufacturers. The problem isn't a lack of formula. The problem is a lack of system. So, what actually determines success? If formula alone don't build successful paint companies, then what does? The answer is surprisingly simple. Successful paint manufacturers understand their market before they understand their machine. They understand customer before they understand chemical. They understand system before they memorize formula, because every successful paint business begins with one important question: not what paint can I make, but what paint does my market actually need. And that changes everything, because before you buy your first mixing tank, before you order your first raw materials, before you even think about production, you need to understand the industrial you are entering. How big is the paint market? What products sell the most? Who are your customers? And where are the biggest opportunity? Those are the questions we will answer next. Now that we have discovered that paint manufacturing is a global opportunity, Let's answer one of the most important questions every beginner should ask. What exactly is the paint manufacturing business? You see, most people think the answer is simple. They believe paint manufacturing is just mixing water, adding a few chemicals, stirring everything together, and filling buckets. But that's only a tiny part of the story, because paint manufacturing isn't simply about mixing paints. It is about manufacturing products that solve real problems. Every paint you see on a wall, every protective coating on a steel bridge, every colorful classroom, every factory floor, every waterproof roof started with one manufacturer who understood a customer need. When you understand that, you stop thinking like someone who mixes paint and you begin thinking like a manufacturer. So, if you may ask, what is the paint manufacturing business? The paint manufacturing business is the process of designing, producing, testing, packaging, and selling coating that protects, decorates, and preserve surfaces. Notice something important. I didn't simply say making paint, because manufacturing is much bigger than production. Production is only one part of the business. Professional paint manufacturer also think about who needs this product. Why do they need it? What problem does it solve? How long should it last? How much will it cost to produce? How much are customers willing to pay? And how can we produce it consistently every single time? That is manufacturing. So, what does paint actually do? You see, most people think paint is only for decoration, to make a house look beautiful. Yes, that is one purpose, but it is far from the only one, because paint protects, paint preserves, paint waterproofs, paint prevents corrosion, paint reflects heat, paint improves hygiene, paint increases the lifespan of buildings and equipment. Without protective coating, steel rusts faster, wood absorbs moisture, concrete deteriorates, road marking disappears, industrial equipment runs out more quickly. Paint isn't a luxury. It is an essential part of modern construction and industry. Now, this is where professional paint manufacturers think differently. They don't ask, how do I make paint? They ask, what problem is my customer trying to solve? If the problem is damp wall, they are manufacturing waterproof coating. And if the problem is poor surface preparation, they manufacture wall primer. If the problem is protecting metal, they manufacture anti-corrosive primer. If the problem is decorating homes, they manufacture interior and exterior decorative paint. Professional paint manufacturers don't manufacture products, they manufacture solution. Now, how big is this industry? Yes. Now, think about the world around you. Every country is growing. New homes are being built. Roads are expanding. Factories are opening. Hospitals are being renovated. School needs maintenance. Hotels are refreshed. Shopping centers are repainted. Government continue investing in infrastructure. Every one of those projects needs paint, not once, but repeatedly, because paint eventually fades at times over the years, after the dust and everything, from 10 years after, 15 years after, 5 years afterwards. Also, paint gets damaged or reaches the end of its service life. That means paint manufacturing isn't driven only by new construction. It is also supported by maintenance, renovation, and repainting. Painters understand this part. That's one reason the industry continues to create opportunity around the world. Now, Paint is not one product. Yes. Another misconception beginners have is thinking paint is just one product. In reality, paint manufacturing includes many different categories. For example, decorative paint for homes and offices, protective coating for steel and industrial structure, wood finishes for furniture, roof coating, road marking paint, waterproofing product, floor coating, marine coating, automotive coating, specialized industrial coating. Each categories serve a different purposes. Each has different customers, different raw materials, different quality standard, and often different profit margin. That is why successful paint manufacturers choose their market carefully instead of trying to produce everything at once. This is where I would like to introduce one of the principles we teach inside our program, the Glina Paint Factory Pyramid. At the foundation of the pyramid are market economic paint. These products usually have lower profit margin but very high sales volume. Above that are standard grade paint. These offer a balance between quality, price, and profitability. Above that, we also have the premium grade paint. Here, customers expect high performances and are willing to pay more. At the top are luxury and specialized coating. These often sell in lower quantities but higher margin because they solve specialized problem. Understanding where your business fits within this pyramid helps you decide what kind of manufacturer you want to become. One mistake I see over and over again is people trying to manufacture every type of paint from day one. Matte paint, gloss paint, texture paint, waterproofing, road marking, industrial coating, wood finishes, everything. It sounds ambitious, but in reality, it often creates confusion, high cost, and inconsistent quality. Professional paint manufacturer usually start with a focused product line. They master those products, build customer confidence, generate constant cash flow, and then expand strategically as the business grows. Growth is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right thing at the right time. If there is one lesson I want you to remember at this stage, it is this. The paint manufacturing business is not simply about producing paint. Yes, it is about understanding the market, solving customer production, building reliable production system, delivering consistent quality, and creating products people trust enough to buy again and again. Once you understand that, you have already started thinking differently from most beginners. But here is another important question. If paint manufacturing is such a large industry with hundreds of different products, thousands of customers, and opportunity in almost every country, how do you decide what to manufacture next? Should you start with matte emulsion, wall primer, gloss enamel paint, waterproofing coating paint, industrial paint, or something completely different? Because choosing the wrong product can slow your business down, while choosing the right one can help you build momentum much faster. And that is exactly what we'll explore soon. So now we have established something important. The paint manufacturing business is much bigger than simply making paint. It is an industry built around solving problems. But that leads us to another important question. Like I said, if there are thousands of different paint products, how do you know which one to manufacture first? This is where many beginners make one of the biggest mistake in business. They start by asking, Coach Glina, what machine should I buy? Or which paint formula should I learn first? Those sound like reasonable questions, but they are not the first question you should be asking. The first question is much more important. What does your market actually buy? Because your factory should not produce what you like. It should produce what your customer needs. One principle has guided manufacturers for generations. Don't start with equipment, start with demand. Think about it this way. Imagine you build a beautiful restaurant, buy expensive kitchen equipment, hire a professional chef, only to discover that nobody in your neighborhood likes the food you are serving. The problem isn't your kitchen. The problem is that you built the business before understanding the customer. The same thing happens in paint manufacturing business. Some people spend millions setting up a factory before finding out whether people actually want the product they plan to make. Professional paint manufacturer do the opposite. They study the market first, then they build the factory around the market. Here is something many beginners don't realize. There is no single paint product that sells the most everywhere in the world. Every country is different. Every economic is different. Every construction industry is different. Every customer has different expectation. For example, in Nigeria, economic math, emulsion, and selling white are among the most common products because they meet the needs of a large industrial market. Now, in Kenya, acrylic exterior paints have strong demands because many customers want coating that perform well outdoor. In Malawi, you may find strong opportunities in affordable decorative paint, primers, and products used in residential construction, even the matte paint. In Ghana, both decorative paint and exterior coating play an important role in their market. In South Africa, customers often have access to a wider range of decorative and specialized coating, creating opportunities across different market segments. Now, in countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, many customers place great emphasis on premium quality, durability, and environmental standard and specialized coating. Do you see the pattern? The opportunity exists everywhere, but the opportunity is never exactly the same. Professional paint manufacturers don't ask, what paint should I manufacture? They ask, what paint is my market already buying every day? That single shift in thinking changes everything because customers determines demand determines production, and production determines profit, not the other way round. So how do you actually find out what sells? Fortunately, you don't need expensive market research. You can begin with simple observation. Visit a art store, which is your local store around that sells paint products. Walk into the paint shop, talk to the person in charge selling the shop or someone that is in the shop. You talk to contractors, speak with painters, visit construction sites, ask proper developers questions, and then notice which paint brands occupy the largest shelf space. You ask store owners questions like, which product sell the faster? Which color do customers request most? What size bucket sells best? Which products are difficult to keep in stock? This conversation can teach you more than spending months searching online because the market always leaves clues you simply have to pay attention to as you go around observing the product to begin with. Now, another mistake beginners make is trying to copy someone else's business exactly. They see a manufacturer succeeding in another country and immediately assume the same strategy will work where they live. Not necessarily, because your country has different suppliers, different construction method, different weather condition, different regulation, different customers' preferences, different purchasing power, and different competition. A successful paint manufacturer study local condition first, then adapt global knowledge to local reality. That is why I always say paint manufacturing is local. The system is global. Inside our coaching program, we teach what we call the Glina market first system. Before recommending a single formula, we ask questions such as, what country are you starting from? What product already dominates the market? Who are your competitors? What raw materials are locally available? What price range can your customers afford? Which products have the best balance between demand and profitability? Only after answering those questions do we begin discussing production, because production should always follow demand, never the other way round. One mistake I see repeatedly also is people falling in love with a product instead of understanding the market. Someone decide, I want to manufacture waterproofing coating, or I only want to make texture paint. Those products may be excellent, but if your local market buys mostly matte or emulsion or wall primer, your factory may struggle to generate steady cash flow. Professional paint manufacturers understand an important principle. Your first product don't have to be your favorite product. They should be the product that help your business grow sustainability. Once your cash flow becomes stable, you can gradually introduce premium and specialized coating. Growth is a journey, not a race. If you remember only one lesson from all this explanation, remember this: market decide what manufacturer produce. Successful paint manufacturer don't guess. They research, they observe, they ask questions, they identify demand, then they build products that solves real customer needs. That is why two paint factories can use similar equipment, yet achieve completely different results. One understands the market, the other simply hopes the market will come. Hope is not a business strategy. Research is. Now, let's assume you have done your research. You know exactly which product your country needs. Perhaps it is wall primer, perhaps it is matte paint, perhaps it is undercoat paint, perhaps it is graffiato paint, perhaps it is waterproofing system, perhaps it is acrylic texture or exterior paint. The next question becomes, how do you actually make those products? What exactly is paint made from? Is it simply water and powder, or is there much more happening inside every bucket than most people realize? Because once you understand the role of each raw material, you will stop memorizing formula and start understanding paint manufacturing. So let's explore. Now, you have done your market research. You understand what product your customer needs. Maybe, like I said, wall primer. Maybe it's economic matte emulsion. Maybe it's acrylic exterior paint. But that leads to another important question. Like I said, what exactly is paint made from? If you've never worked in a paint factory before, you might think paint is simply water mixed with some white powder and powder inside a bucket. It looks simple, right? But behind every quality paint, it is a carefully balanced system of raw materials. Every chemical has a purpose. Every ingredient performs a specific job. Remove one, or use the wrong one and the entire paint can fail. That is why professional paint manufacturers don't memorize formula. They understand the function. Now, one of the biggest lessons I've learned earlier in my manufacturing journey was that paint isn't one material, it is a system. Imagine building a house. You wouldn't expect bricks alone to make a complete home. You need cement, sand, steel, wood, glasses, roofing, electricity, wiring, plumbing. Each material has a different responsibility. Paint works the same way. Every raw materials contribute to something different. When those materials work together, we get a high quality coating. When one material is missing, problem begins. So to make paint easier to understand, I like to dive into the 5 main building blocks. Let's look at them one by one. The first, the liquid, which is a carrier. Everything begins with a liquid. In water-based paint, the carrier is usually water. In solvent-based paint, the carrier may be white spirit, saline, mineral, turpentine, or another substitute solvent. Think of the liquid as transportation system. Its job is to carry every other chemicals while the paint is being manufactured and applied. Once the paint dries, much of the liquid evaporates, leaving the solid paint flame behind. Without the carrier, the paint could not flow. It could not spread. It could not be applied smoothly. Number 2, the binder. That is the glue. If water carries the paint, the binder holds everything together. I often tell my students the binder is the heart of the paint because the entire paint dries and the binder forms the protective flame that remains on the wall. It helps the paint stick to the surface. It gives durability. It improves washability. It contributes to weather resistance. It affects flexibility. Without enough binder, the paint may chalk, peel, crack, or wash away too easily. Different paint requires different binder. For example, a wall primer may use one type of binder, and acrylic exterior paint may require another. A gloss enamel use an entire different resin system. Choosing the right binder is one of the most important decisions a paint manufacturer make. So, number 3 is the pigment, which are the colors and hidden power. Now, let's talk about pigment. Pigment gives its color, but they do much more than that. Now, like titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide is one of the most well-known white pigments. It provides whitishness, brightness, and hidden power. Other pigments create colors such as red, blue, yellow, green, black, brown, and many more. Sometimes pigment also protect metal from corrosion. Other reflective heat. Other improves weather resistance. Professional paint manufacturers don't simply add color. They choose pigments based on performances. Now, the 4th is the extender, which are the volumes and performances. The next group is often misunderstood, which are the fillers. These are extenders, pigment, or mineral fillers. Example includes calcium carbonate, kaolin clay, talc, silicates, and so many of them. Many beginners think these materials are simply cheap fillers. That's not true. When properly selected, they help control texture, smoothness, flame strength, coverage, sanding properties, application characters, and overall production costs. Professional paint manufacturers don't ask, how much calcium carbonate can I add? They ask, what role should this extend play in my formulation? That is factory thinking. Now, the 5th is the additives, which are the specialized chemical. So finally, we have additive. These are usually added in smaller quantity, but they perform very important job. Think of additive as specialized. You understand? Each one solves a particular problem. For example, a thickener controls viscosity, a disperser helps pigment spread evenly, a deformer reduces foam during production, a wetting agent improves pigment wetting. A preservative protects the paint during storage. A coalescent agent helps the paint flame form properly. A pH adjuster helps stabilize the formulation. Each additive has a purpose. Without them, the paint may still be produced, but its performances may suffer. This is one of the biggest differences between beginners and professional paint manufacturers. Beginners ask, what's the formula? Professional asks, what job does this chemical perform? Because once you understand the function, you can troubleshoot problem, you can improve quality, you can adapt formulation, and you can work with equivalent raw chemicals from different suppliers. Now, understanding the functions of each chemical gives you flexibility. Memorizing formula gives you limitation. Think about preparing a meal. You need vegetables, spices, oil, salt, protein, seasoning, water. Each ingredient contributes something different. Remove the salt, the flavor changes. Remove the oil, the texture changes. Use too much seasoning, the taste become unpleasant. Paint works exactly the same way. Every chemical must be balanced. Too much of one chemical or too little of another can change the performances of the final product. That is why paint manufacturing is both a science and a carefully controlled production process. One mistake I see all the time is people trying to copy a formulation without understanding why it works. Someone sees a recipe online, they follow it exactly, but they use different raw materials from different suppliers, then the paints perform differently. Why? Because two products may have similar names but different properties. Professional paint manufacturers don't copy blindly. They understand the purpose behind every chemicals. That is what allows them to adapt to different markets and different suppliers. If you want to build a paint manufacturing business that lasts, don't focus on memorizing ingredients. Focus on understanding their function. Because when you understand what every raw material does, you are no longer dependable on one supplier. You are no longer dependable on one formula. You are developing the mindset of a manufacturer. And that's a skill you can apply almost anywhere in the world. But here is something that surprised many beginners. The same raw materials can have different names in different countries. A chemical sold under one trade name in Nigeria may be sold under another name in South Africa, India, China, Kenya, or the United Kingdom. So how do professional paint manufacturers know they are buying the right materials? And how do they avoid expensive mistake when sourcing chemical internationally? Now, we have discussed something important. Paint isn't just water and powder. It is a carefully balanced system of raw materials, and every chemical has a specific function. But here is something that surprised almost every beginner. Imagine you learn paint formulation in Nigeria. You travel to Kenya or South Africa or Malawi or Ghana or India or China or the United States, and suddenly you cannot find half of the chemical on your formula sheet or formulation sheet. You visit a chemical supplier, you show them your list, and they tell you, we have never heard of this chemical. At that moment, many beginners think they have reached a dead end. They begin asking, Coach Glina, are the chemicals different in every country? The answer is sometimes yes, but very often the chemical hasn't changed. Only the name has. And understanding that one principle can completely change the way you think about paint manufacturing. One of the biggest mistakes beginner makes is believing that trade names are the same as chemical. They are not. A trade name is simply the name of a manufacturing or supplier that gives to that product. Think about bottled water. Different company sells bottled water under different brand name, but it is still water. The same thing happens in the chemical industry. One supplier may sell a dispenser under one brand name. Another supplier may sell a similar product under a complete different name. The names are different, but the function may be very similar. That's why professional paint manufacturer never depend only on a trade name. Let's imagine you are looking for a thickener in one country. A supplier may recommend a product using one commercial brand. Another country may stock a different brand. A third supplier may offer another equivalent. If you only search for one trade name, you might think the chemical doesn't exist. But if you understand its function, you immediately know what you are looking for. That's the differences between memorizing names and understanding manufacturing. Professional manufacturers don't ask, do you have brand X? They ask, do you have a cellulose thickener with similar performances, or do you have an acrylic binder suitable for interior emulsion paint? Notice these differences. They describe the function, not just repeating a brand name. That is how successful paint manufacturers source materials almost everywhere in the world. So if trade name changes, how do professionals know they are buying the right product? They rely on 4 important tools, not just one. Number 1, chemical function. The first question is always, what does the chemical actually do? Does it thicken the paint? Does it bind the pigments together? Number 2 is cast number. This second tool is something very serious manufacturer should know. The cast number stands for chemical abstract service. Think of cast number as a chemical unique identification number. Just a very few person has fingerprint. Many individual chemical substances have cast number that helps identify them accurately, regardless of the brand name used by different suppliers. 2 suppliers may market the same chemical under different trade name, but the cast number helps you verify what the substance actually is. That's one reason professional paint manufacturers become familiar with cast number, especially when sourcing internationally. The third is technical data sheet, the TDS. These third tools, which is a technical data sheet, is often called the TDS. Like I said, this document explains what the product is, its key properties, recommended application, typical dosage, performances, characteristics, storage, recommendation. The TDS helps you understand whether a material is sustainable for your formulation. Professional paint manufacturers don't buy chemical based only on the label. They read the technical information. Now the fourth is material specification. These 4 tools is understanding material specification. Not every product with a similar name perform exactly the same. 2 binders may both be acrylic, but they may have different solid content, different viscosity, different particle size, or different performances characters. The same applies to pigment, fillers, thickeners, and many other raw materials. That is why manufacturers compare specification before making substitution. Now, imagine you are preparing to manufacture oil primer. Your original formulation used a particle dispenser. You move to another country and your supplier doesn't stock that exact product. A beginner might panic, but a professional manufacturer asks different questions. What function did the original dispenser perform? What performances characteristics do I need? Is there an equivalent product that meets those requirements? Those questions lead to solution because manufacturers understand principle, not just product label. Inside our PMB course, one of the first things we teach is what I call the Glina chemical identification system. Instead of depending only on supplier trade name, we identify raw materials using 4 simple checkpoints. The function, what job does the chemical perform? The chemical identity, what type of material is it? The technical data, does it need the performances requirement? Local availability, can any equivalent be sourced reliably in your country? This system helps our students adapt formulation across different countries without becoming dependable on a single supplier or brand, because the goal isn't to memorize product category. The goal is to understand the science behind that product. One mistake I see repeatedly is someone saying, Coach Glina, I can't produce paint because I can't find this exact chemical. Most of the time, the issue isn't that the chemical doesn't exist. It is that they are searching for one specific trade name instead of looking for a sustainable equivalent. Professional manufacturers stays flexible. They build relationship with supplier. They compare technical information. And when appropriate, they evaluate equivalent materials before making changes. That flexibility keeps production moving. If your plan is to build a paint manufacturing business that can grow beyond your local market, you must stop thinking like a buyer and start thinking like a manufacturer. Buyers search for brand name. Manufacturers understand chemical function. Buyers depend on one supplier, while manufacturers know how to evaluate alternative. That mindset gives you confidence, and it reduces supply chain risks, and it opens opportunity to manufacturer almost everywhere in the world. Now, we have answered another important question. You understand your market, you understand the raw materials, and you know how professional paint manufacturer identify chemical, even when names differ from country to country. But understanding chemical alone doesn't build a factory. The next question is practical. Where do you actually produce the paint? What kind of building do you need? What equipment should you buy first? How should your production area be arranged? And how do you avoid spending money on things you don't need? Let's answer this question. Now, we have reached an exciting stage. You understand the paint manufacturing is a global business. You have researched your local market. You know which product have demand. You have learned what paint is made of, and you now understand how professional paint manufacturer identify raw materials even when chemical name changes from country to country. So naturally, what kind of factory do you actually need? Like I said, many people imagine that starting a paint factory means building a huge industrial complex with millions of cash worth of machine. That's what keeps many people from ever getting started. But here's the reality. Every successful paint manufacturer didn't start with massive factory. Every factory, no matter how large it is today, started with a single production area. The question isn't how big should my factory be? The better question is what kind of factory fits my current stage of business? One of the biggest misconceptions beginners have is believing that a factory is simply a room with a mixing machine. It is not. A professional paint factory is a production system. Every section has a purpose. Every movement inside the factory should make production easy, safe, and more efficient. Think about a hospital. Patients don't enter through the operating theater. Doctors don't store medicine in the waiting room. Every department has its place. A paint factory works the same way. When everything flows in the right direction, production becomes smoother, mistake becomes fewer, quality becomes more consistent. So let's look at the 5 essential areas of a paint factory, regardless of whether you are starting in Nigeria, Kenya, Malawi, South Africa, Canada, China, India, UK, US, Australia, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, or anywhere else. Most paint factories are built around the same basic workflow. Number 1, raw material storage. Every factory begins here. This is where you safely store your binder, pigment, fillers, additive, and packaging materials. Raw materials should be organized clearly labeled and protected from moisture, contamination, and excessive heat. A well-organized store save time and reduce costly production error. Professional paint manufacturer know where every materials is before production process begin. Number 2, production area. This is the heart of the factory, where raw materials are weighed, mixed, dispensed, adjusted, and transformed into finished paint. The production area should have enough space for operation to work safely. Equipment should be positioned to support a logic production sequence, good lighting, good ventilation, easy cleaning, safe handling of materials. These details improve both efficiency and product quality. The third, quality control areas. This is one area many beginners overlook. They believe if the paint looks good, it must be good. Professional paint manufacturer never rely only on appearances. They test. Even a small laboratory allows you to check important properties such as viscosity, pH level, specific gravity, color consistency, drying time, and application performances. Because quality isn't inspected after production, it is controlled throughout production. Now the fourth is packaging area. Once the paint passes quality check, it moves to the packaging area. Here the paint is filled into containers, buckets are sealed, labels are applied, badge numbers are recorded. Packaging may seem simple, but is often the first thing customer notice. A clean professional packaging builds confidence before the customer even opens the bucket. The fifth, finishing goods warehouse. The final stage is storage. Finished products should be organized by product type and product badge. Other stock should be dispatched before new stock whenever appropriate. Good inventory management reduce waste and improve customer services and helps maintain product quality during the storage time. Professional paint manufacturers don't just design factories around machine, they design factories around workflow. Ask yourself, how do raw materials enter? Where are they stored? Where is production carried out? Where is quality checked? Where is packaging completed? Where are finished products stored before delivery? Every unnecessary movement costs time. Every inefficient process increases production costs. The goal isn't just to manufacture paint, it is to manufacture paint efficiently. Now, what equipment do you really need? Another common misconception is believing you must buy every machine immediately. You don't. The equipment you need depends on your production capacity, your production range, your available capital, and your business goal. A beginner producing smaller batches will have different equipment needs from a commercial factory producing thousands of liters each day. Typical equipment may include mixing tank, high-speed dispenser, weighing scale, transfer pump, filling equipment, storage containers, laboratory test tools. As production grows, equipment can also grow. Remember, factory involved. Every few successful paint manufacturers started with fully automated production line. Now, machine alone don't run factory. Factory also depend on reliable utilities. You need a dispensable water supply, suitable electric or backup power, good ventilation, safe drainage, proper lighting, fire safety equipment, and adequate working space. Ignoring these basics can interrupt production and create unnecessary costs. A well-planned factory supports constant manufacturing. One mistake I see repeatedly is entrepreneurs spending most of their budget decorating the building, buying expensive office furniture, or purchasing machine they won't use for months. Meanwhile, they overlook workflow, storage, quality control, and production efficiency. A factory isn't impressive because it is expensive. A factory is impressive because it consistently produces quality product. Start with what you need. Grow as demand grow. Now, inside our training, we teach what I call the Glina factory first mindset. That is to say, don't build the biggest factory. Build the most efficient factory your current business can sustain. Think in stages. Stage 1, a factory that allows you to learn production, build customer, and generate cash flow. Stage 2, a factory that improves equipment, increase production capacity, expand your production range, strengthen quality system. Stage 3, a factory that has automated processes, develop laboratory, build a distribution network, expand into religion market. Growth should be planned, not rushed. If there's one lesson I want you to remember on this particular explanation, it is this: your factory is not your business. Your factory is a system that allows your business to serve customer consistently. Professional paint manufacturer don't chase the biggest building. They build efficient system, because an organized factory reduce waste, improve quality, and increase productivity, and creates the foundation for long-term growth. Now, you know what kind of factory you need. You have seen the basic workflow, you have understand the essential equipment, and hopefully you have realized that starting doesn't always require the biggest factory. But another question immediately comes to my mind: how much money do you actually need to start? Do you need millions before you begin? Can you start on a small budget? And how do professional paint manufacturers decide when it is time to expand? This is where I will introduce one of the systems I used to help entrepreneurs plan a realistical paint manufacturing business. It is called the Glina 3 Startup Course System. Now, you have answered another important question. You understand your market, you understand the production people buy, you understand the raw materials, and you have seen what type of paint factory actually looks like naturally. And just like I said, the next question almost everyone asks me is, Coach Glina, how much money do I need to start a paint manufacturing business? I've been asked this question hundreds and thousands of times, from entrepreneurs in Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, Tanzania, Mali, Cameroon, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and many other countries. Most people expect me to give them one number, but my answer always surprised them. I tell them there is no universal startup cost because every country is different, every market is different, every entrepreneur has different goals, every factory starts at a different stage. The better question isn't how much money do I need? The better question is, what kind of factory am I trying to build? That is why I created what I told you. It is called the Glina 3 Startup, a cost system. Instead of thinking about one budget, think about 3 different levels of factory development. Each level has a different purposes. Level 1, low-cost factory startup. This is where most successful manufacturers begin, not because they lack ambition, but because they understand something very important. Every business must first learn how to generate cash flow. At level 1, factory is designed from learning, testing, building customers, and developing confidence. At this stage, production is usually smaller, equipment is smaller, operations are easier to manage. You focus on production and producing a limited numbers of products consistently. For example, you may begin with products such as wall primer, eco matte, emulsion paint, silly paint, emulsion paint, or 1 or 2 other fast-moving decorative paint. Instead of trying to manufacture everything, you master a few products expectationally well, because your first goal isn't to become the biggest entrepreneur. Your first goal is to become a reliable manufacturer. Professional paint manufacturers don't ask how big can I start. They ask how small can I start while still building a professional business. That question protects your capital. Level 2, growing factory. As your customer base expands, your factory evolves. This isn't a complete new business. It is the next stage of the same journey. Now, your focus shifts from survival to growth. Production capacity increase. Equipment becomes more efficient. You introduce additional product line. Your quality system becomes stronger. You may begin serving more hardware store, more customers, construction companies, paint dealers, and large commercial projects. Your brand becomes more recognized. Your production becomes more consistent. You are not longer simply making paint, you are building a manufacturing company. Now, the level 3, commercial factory. Eventually, some manufacturer reach this commercial stage. This is where the business become highly structured. Production system becomes more automated. Laboratory testing becomes more advanced. Distribution expand into multiple regions. The product portfolio becomes much larger. Management system becomes more organized at this level. You are not only serving individual customer, you may also supply large distributors, proper development, government projects, industrial customer, religion market, and export opportunities. Growth becomes systematic, not accidental. One misconception keeps many people from ever starting. They believe if I don't have enough money to build a commercial factory, I shouldn't start at all. That's simply not true. Some of the strongest manufacturing businesses didn't begin with massive building or expensive machinery. They begin with discipline, consistency, learning, and reinvesting profit back into the business. Because capital matters, but how you manage the capital matters even more. Here's another mistake I see all the time. People save money for a factory, then spend most of it on things that don't generate income. Expensive office furniture, like I said, luxury office decoration, oversized building equipment that they barely use. Meanwhile, they don't have enough money for raw materials, packaging, marketing, distribution, or working capitals, even sourcing for customers. Professional paint manufacturer understand something different. Money should first support production because production creates sales. Sales generate cash flow, and cash flow funds growth. Here's how manufacturers think. Every cash invested should answer one question. Will this help me produce better paint, serve more customers, or grow the business? If the answer is no, it may not be the right investment today. Growth isn't about trying everything. Growth is about buying the right thing at the right time. This may surprise you. Many beginners think their first investment should be machinery. I disagree. Your first investment should be knowledge because knowledge helps you avoid expensive mistake. The right knowledge help you choose the right market, the right product, the right equipment, the right raw materials, and the right factory layout. The right pricing strategy. Without that understanding, even a large investment can disappear quickly. I've met entrepreneurs who invested heavily only to discover later that they built the wrong type of business for their market. I've also met entrepreneurs who started much smaller but grew steadily because they understand the system before spending money. Now, let's look at the Glina startup philosophy I used to teach entrepreneurs over the world. This is one principle I teach every entrepreneur. Like I said, 1, start with the market, build the system, generate constant cash flow, reinvest profit, improve quality, expand production, repeat the process. That is how sustainability manufacturing business are built, not through shortcut, but through system. If there's one lesson I want you to remember here is that your budget does not determine your future. Your decision do. Money can buy machine, but it cannot buy understanding. Money can rent a factory, but it cannot build a manufacturing system. Money can purchase raw material, but it cannot replace knowledge. The manufacturers who succeed over the long time are usually those who match their investment to their current stage of business instead of trying to look bigger than they really are, because sustainability growth is built one stage at a time. Now, imagine you have done everything we have discussed. You have chosen the right market, you have selected the right product, you have planned your factory, you have invested wisely, you begin producing paint. But here is the question that determines whether customer comes back or never buy from you again. How do manufacturers produce paint that people actually trust? Because making paint is one thing. Making consistent, high quality paint is something completely different. And that's where quality controls changes everything. All right, now let's say that you have studied your market, you have selected the right product, you have understood the raw materials, you have planned your factory based on your budget, you have invested according to what you can afford. Now your first batch of paint is ready. It looks beautiful inside the bucket. The color is attractive. The viscosity feels right. You package it. You deliver it to your first customer. Everything seems perfect. But a few days later, the customer calls. The paint doesn't cover well. It is peeling, it dries too slowly, the color doesn't matches the previous batch, or even worsen. I don't think I'll buy from you again. That single phone call can destroy months of hard work, not because your factory failed, but because your quality failed. And that is why every successful paint manufacturer understands one important truth. Customers don't buy paint, they buy confidence. They want confidence that every bucket they purchase today will perform exactly like the one they bought last month, last year, and that's where quality control begins. Many beginners believe quality control means checking the paint after production. Professional paint manufacturers know that only a small part of that process. Quality control starts long before the paint reaches the bucket. It begins with choosing the right raw materials. It continues during weighing section, during mixing, during dispension, during adjustment, during filling, during packaging, and even during storage. In other words, quality isn't something you inspect at the end. Quality is something you build into every step of production. Here's how professional paint manufacturers think. They don't ask, did this batch come out well? They ask, can I produce this same paint quality every single time? Because customers don't compare your paint to your intuition. They compare today's bucket to yesterday's bucket. Consistency builds confidence, and confidence builds trust. Trust builds brand. Imagine buying bottled water. Every bottle tastes exactly the same, whether you buy it today, next week, or next month. That's not an accident. That is quality control. Now think about your favorite restaurant. You expect the same meal every time. The same flavor, the same portion, the same experiences again. That is quality control. Paint manufacturing works exactly the same way. A contractor painting a hotel cannot afford one bucket that covers 12 square meters and another bucket that covers only 8. A homeowner doesn't want one room to dry in 2 hours and another room to take 12. Professional paint manufacturers eliminate surprises. One question I hear often is, Coach Glina, what exactly do manufacturers taste? The answer is they taste whatever affects customer satisfaction. Some of the most common quality check includes viscosity. It is the paint too thick, too thin, or just right for application. 2, they test the pH level. Is the formulation chemically stable? Will it remain stable during storage? Also, specific gravity. Does every batch maintain the expected density and consistency? They also check the opacity. Does the paint hide the surface properly, or will customer need unnecessary extra coat? Also, coverage. How much surface area can 1 liter or 1 bucket covers? Because good coverage saves customer time and money. Now, they also check the drying time. Does the paint dry within the expected time? Not too fast, not too slow. Now, they check adhesion. Will the paint remain attached to the surfaces, or will it peel after a short period? What about the washability? They also check that as well. Can the paint surface withstand cleaning, especially for premium decorative paint? They also check color consistency, which is very, very, very important as a paint manufacturer. Now, will every batch matches the previous one? That is the color consistency. Not you produce gray paint color today, and when you are asked to bring it immediately and they apply it on the wall, you have 4 different colors of gray paint when applied side by side. You see, customer expect uniformly, not surprisingly. Here's another misconception. Many people believe quality control requires a large industrial laboratory. That is not always the truth. Every factory should have a quality control system. As your business grows, your laboratory can grow with it. The important thing is developing the habit of testing, not guessing. Professional paint manufacturers don't rely on hope, they rely on measurement. One mistake I see repeatedly also is producing paint, choosing the bucket and immediately sending it to the customer without testing because it looks good. But appearances alone tells you very little about the paint product. Two paints may look identically inside the bucket, yet performs completely different on the wall. One may last for years, the other may begin failing within a month. That is why manufacturer tests before customer do, because if the customer discover the problem first, you have already lost something much more valuable than one sales. You've lost trust. Let's talk about what poor quality really costs. It is not only one rejected bucket. It's refund, production replacement, transport cost, damage reputation, negative words of mouth, loss of referrals, loss of repeated business, damage to your brand reputation. Many manufacturers think quality costs money. The truth is, poor quality costs far money. Quality is not an expensive, it is an investment. Inside our PMB course, we teach what I call the Glina quality first system. Every bucket should ensure 4 important questions before it reaches the customer. Is it consistency? Can this quality be repeated? Is it reliable? Will it perform as expected? Is it stable? Will it maintain its quality during storage? Is it customer ready? Would you confidentially use this product in your own home? If the answer is no to any one of these questions, the bucket or the badge needs further attention before it leaves the factory, because protecting your reputation is more important than rushing production. If there's one lesson I want you to remember here is that customer really remember the formulation you use. They remember the experience your product gave them. If your paint covers well, applies smoothly, dries properly, lasts for years, and perform consistently, customer begins recommending your brand without asking. That is how trust is built, not through advertising alone, but through reliable performances. Professional manufacturers don't chase quick sales. They build long-term confidence, and long-term confidence creates long-term businesses. Now imagine you have built something customer trust. Your quality is constant, your products perform well, customer begins placing order, thereafter your reputation start soaring high. But another important question appears. How do paint manufacturers actually make money? Is selling more buckets enough? How do you calculate your cost? How do you price your product? How do dealers merge work? What is the difference between revenue, gross profit, and net profit? Because producing great paint is only half the business. The other half is building a profitable paint manufacturing company. Now, you have reached one of the most important parts of building a paint manufacturing business. Imagine you've done everything correctly. You have researched your market, you've chosen the right product, you have sourced quality raw materials, you have set up factories, you have produced consistently high quality paint, customer trust your brand, others are coming in. Now, here is the question that determines whether your business survives or slowly disappears. How do paint companies actually make money? Many people immediately answer by selling paint. Yes, but that's only part of the answer, because I have seen factories selling thousands of liters of paint every month, yet the owners were struggling financially. And I have also seen smaller manufacturers selling fewer buckets but making far better profit. Why? Because successful manufacturers understand something many beginners overlook. Revenue is not the same as profit. Yes. Now, selling more doesn't always mean earning more. One of the biggest myth in business is this: if I sell more, I will automatically make more money. Not necessarily. Imagine two paint factory. Both sell exactly 1,000 buckets of paint every month. Factory A celebrates because sales are increasing, but they don't know their production cost. They don't track waste. They don't calculate labor cost. They don't know their profit margin. At the end of the month, very little money remains. Factory B also sells 1,000 buckets, but every batch is costed carefully, waste is controlled, pricing is calculated, cash flow is monitored. By the end of the month, Factory B earns significantly more. The difference isn't sale, the difference is management. Professional manufacturers don't ask how many buckets did we sell, they ask how much profit did every bucket generate, because business don't survive on sales, business survives on profit. Many beginners calculate only one expenses: raw materials. They think if my chemical costs about $100 and I sell the paint for about $150, I've made about $50. Unfortunately, business isn't that simple. Professional paint manufacturers calculate the total cost of production. That includes raw materials, packaging, bucket, leads, label, labor, electricity, water, diesel, equipment maintenance, transportation, factory rent, quality control, office expenses, marketing, and many other operational costs. Every bucket carries a share of those expenses. If you ignore them, you may think you're making money when you are actually losing it. Let's use a simple example. Imagine your factory produce one batch of paint. Your total production cost is about $800. You sell that batch for about $1,100. Your gross profit is $1,100 minus $800. That sounds excellent, but the story isn't finished yet. Now, subtract office rent, staff salary, fuel, internet, marketing, equipment repairs, bank charges, taxes, delivery expenses. After all those costs, you might discover that your actual net profit is much lower. That is why successful paint manufacturers monitor both gross profit and net profit, because the money left after paying every expenses is what allows the business to grow. Now let's look at the power of profit margin. Let's talk about something every manufacturer should understand: your profit margin. Profit margin tells you how much profit remains from every sales after considering your cost. A healthy business doesn't simply chase high sales, it aims for sustainable profitability. Now, some products naturally operate with lower margin but higher sales volume. Other sales in smaller quantities but generate higher margin because they offer specialized performances. Understanding that balance helps manufacturers build a strong business over time. This is where another principle becomes important: the Glina paint factory pyramid. At the bottom, we have market economic paint, lower margin, high sale volume. These products often keep cash flowing. Above that, we have the standard grade paint, balanced quality, balanced pricing, balanced profitability. Then we have the primer grade paint, higher performances, higher customer expectation, higher profit potential. At the very top, we have luxury and specialty coating. These products may sell in lower volume, but they often command strong margin because they solve specialized problem. Professional paint manufacturers understand that every level of the pyramid has a purpose. Some products generate volume, others generate profitability. A balanced product portfolio helps create a resilient business. Also, let's look about pricing is more than adding a profit. One mistake beginners make is calculating price like this: my paint costs $10. So I'll add $2 and sell. Professional paint manufacturers think differently. Before setting a price, they ask, what is the market willing to pay? Who is my customers? What quality am I offering? What volume am I providing? How much do my competitors charge? Can my dealer still make a profit? Can my distributor earn money? Can the final customer still see volume? Pricing isn't just mathematics, it is strategy. Another lesson many beginners discover too late is that your customer isn't always the person who applies the paint. Sometimes your customer is a hardware store, a paint dealer, a distributor, a contractor. Each person in that chain expects to earn something. If your pricing leaves no room for dealers to make a profit, many won't actively promote your product. Professional paint manufacturers build pricing structure that creates value for everyone involved. When your dealer grows, your business grows. Now let's talk about something even more important than profit: cash flow. You see, a company can be profitable on paper and still struggle because cash isn't available when it is needed. Imagine customers buying your paint today but don't pay for 6 days or thereabout. Meanwhile, you still need to buy raw materials, pay staff, purchase your bucket, cover transportation. Without healthy cash flow, production slows down. That's why professional paint manufacturers don't only monitor profit, they also manage the movement of cash throughout the business, because cash flows keeps production moving. One mistake I see repeatedly is entrepreneurs trying to compete only on price. They believe if my paint is cheaper than everyone else, customers will buy. Sometimes they do, but low price alone rarely builds strong manufacturing business. Eventually, low price reduce profit. Reduced profit limits quality. Lower quality weakness customers trust. Professional paint manufacturer compete on volume, not simply on being the cheapest. Inside the PMB course, we teach what I call the Glina profit first system. Before launching any product, we ask 5 important questions. Is there demand? Will customer consistently buy this product? Can we produce it efficiently? Can quality remain consistent? Will it generate healthy profit, not just sales, but sustainability, profitability? Also, can our distributors and dealers also make money? Because strong partnership creates strong business. Then we also often ask, can this product support long-term business growth? Because if the answer is yes, then it becomes part of the production portfolio. Because every product should strengthen the company, not simply increase workload. If there's one lesson I want you to remember from this explanation, is this: successful paint companies don't make money because they manufacture paint. They make money because they understand business. They understand costing, pricing, cash flow, profit margin, dealers relationship, and long-term strategy. Any factory can produce paint, but not every factory become a profitable business. The difference isn't usually the formula. The difference is management. Now, imagine you have built a profitable manufacturing business. Your product performs well, your quality is consistent, your pricing makes sense, your factory is growing. But another question appears: if your paint is excellent, how do customers discover it? Because the best paint in the world won't sell if nobody knows your brand exists. So how do successful paint manufacturers build trusted brand and create strong distribution network? And constantly attract new customer? That's exactly what we're going to be exploring now. So let's say at this stage, you have reached another turning point in your manufacturing journey. You have done your market research, you have chosen the right product, you've understood the chemistry, you have built your factory or operating in a factory process. You have invested wisely, your quality is consistent, you have calculated your cost, your pricing makes sense, you are finally producing excellent paint. But here's the question, like I said, every manufacturer eventually face. How do customers actually find your product? Because here is the truth. The best paint in the world can still fail, not because the quality is poor, but because nobody knows it exists. One lesson every paint manufacturer eventually learn is this: good paint doesn't automatically create a successful business. Customers don't buy products they have never heard about. That is why every successful paint manufacturer eventually becomes more than a product or a producer. They become a brand. So, what does it mean to build a paint brand? Many people think branding is simply creating a beautiful logo or choosing attractive bucket colors. Those things are important, but branding goes much deeper. A brand is the promise people associate with your company. When your customer sees your bucket, what do they immediately think? Affordable, reliable, premium, long-lasting, professionalism, or I have never heard of this company. You see, every successful paint manufacturer works intentionally to build trust before the customer even opens the bucket. Professional paint manufacturers don't ask, how can I sell this bucket of paint? They ask, how can I build a company customers remember? Because customers may forget today's advertisement, but they remember brands they trust. Because branding begins before the sales. You see, your brand starts long before the customer applies your paint. It begins with your business name, your product label, your packaging, your color consistencies, your communication, your professionalism, even the way your products are arranged in a hard store communicates something about your business. Professional packaging does not only attract attention, it creates confidence, because people naturally assume that companies paying attention to presentation are always paying attention to quality. While appearances alone doesn't guarantee performances, it often influences first impression. One mistake beginners make is believing everyone is their customer. In reality, successful paint manufacturers know exactly who they are serving. Some customers are homeowners, others are painters, some are contractors, some are shop owners, others are architecturals, interior design, property developers, construction companies, government agencies, industrial businesses. Every customer has different needs, different budgets, different buying behavior. So professional paint manufacturers understand each market segment and communicate differently with each one. Now, let's talk about something that separates paint manufacturers from small producers: distribution. Many beginners believe they must personally sell every bucket of their paint. That's difficult to sustain as the business grows, because professional paint manufacturer build system that allows products to reach customers consistently. That may include hardware stores, paint dealers, building material suppliers, construction companies, independent distributors, retail outlets, commercial projects, government procurement opportunities. Because your factory produce paint, your distribution system deliver it to the market. Without distribution, product slow. Now, business isn't only about product, it is about people. And this is called the power of relationship. You see, a contractor who trusts your brand may continue buying for years. A hard store owner who believes in your product may recommend them to hundreds of customers. An architect who has confident in your quality, may specify your product for future projects. One satisfied customer can introduce your business to many others. That is why professional paint manufacturer invest in relationship, not just transaction. So let's look at the marketing aspect of the business. Many people become uncomfortable when they hear the word marketing. They imagine aggressive advertisement, constant selling, or convincing people to buy. Me, I see marketing differently because marketing is education. It helps customer understand why your product exists, what problem it solves, how it performs, why it is different. When people understand value, buying becomes easier. That's exactly why I created this YouTube channel. Educational build trust. Trust builds relationship, and relationship builds business. Today, customers discover business in many different ways. Some hear about your paint from painters, some through contractors, some visit different hardware stores, some search online, some search YouTube, some find you on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, or WhatsApp. Professional paint manufacturers don't rely on only one source of customer. They build multiple channels that consistently brings new people to their businesses, because when one channel slow, the other continues working. One mistake I see often is entrepreneurs spending months perfecting production, but giving very little attention to marketing. Then they wonder, Coach Glina, my paint is excellent. Why aren't people buying? The answer is simple. People cannot buy what they don't know exists. Visibility matters, not because your paint is poor, but because every market contains competitors. Someone else's story will influence their decision instead. Inside our PMB course, we teach what I call the Glina Trust Building System. A successful paint brand is built on 4 foundations. 1. Quality. Customer must trust the product. 2. Consistency. Every badge should perform reliably. 3. Visibility. People must know your company exists. 4. Relationship. Customers should enjoy doing business with you. When those 4 areas work together, sales become much easier because trust reduces resistance. If there is one lesson I want you to remember from this branding, it is manufacturing creates product, branding creates trust, marketing creates awareness, distribution creates availability. When those 4 works together, businesses grow. Professional paint manufacturers don't wait for customers to accidentally discover them. They intentionally build brands that customers remember and recommend, and also return to gain and gain, because the goal isn't simply to sell one bucket of paint. The goal is to build a company people continue buying from for years. So now, as an entrepreneur or someone watching this video right now on YouTube and trying to understand this teaching section, do you want to build a paint brand that customers are going to trust? Do you want to start a paint manufacturing business, or are you already a paint manufacturer? Now, have you learned something? Are you willing to practice all the things that I'm teaching you right now into your businesses, and of course build a long-lasting paint brand that customers are going to trust and keep coming back to buy from you years continuously? Now, drop it in the comment section. Let me know that you are digesting all these keys points that I'm teaching on how to successfully grow your paint manufacturing business when you start, or if you started already. So go down to the comment section and of course fill in all your comments and will personally reply to them. So now let's look at, we've reached that stage your products are trusted, your brand becomes recognized, your dealers are placing repeated orders, contractors know your name, your production is increasing, everything you have built is beginning to work. But that creates another challenge, which is, how do you grow without losing quality? How do you expand your product range, employ more people, increase production, build a distribution network, and scale from a small factory into a respected paint manufacturing company? Because growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens through system. And that's what exactly we're going to be explaining right away. So let's say you have researched your market. You have chosen the products people actually buy. You have understand paint chemistry. You have learned how to identify raw materials. You have planned your factory process. You have invested according to your budget. You have built a quality control system. You have learned how to price your products. And of course, you have started building your paint brand. Customers are beginning to trust your products. Orders are increasing, your dealers are asking for more stock, contractors are recommending your paint for many people. This is where this question appears. Like I said, how do manufacturers actually grow? Because starting a paint business and building a manufacturing company are two completely different journeys. Many people believe business growth simply happens with time. It doesn't. Time alone doesn't grow a company. Good decisions do. I have seen factories that operated for 20 years yet remained exactly the same way. I've also seen younger companies expand rapidly because they built the right system from the beginning. Growth isn't measured by how long you have been in business. Growth is measured how well your business evolves. Professional paint manufacturers don't ask, how can I sell more paint? They ask, how can I build a strong manufacturing system? Because strong system naturally produce better results. When system improve, quality improve, customer confidence improve, sales improve, profit improves. Inside our training, I teach what I call the 5 stages of manufacturing growth. Every successful paint company moves throughout these stages, not necessarily at the same speed, but usually in the same order. The first stage, which is stage 1, is survival. Every manufacturer begins here. You are learning, you are experimenting, you are building confidence, you are finding customers. Cash flow is your priority at this stage because every bucket sold matters at this stage. Don't compete with the biggest company. Compete with yesterday's version of yourself. Become better every week. Now, this stage 2, stability. Now, something changes. Customers begin returning. Dealers place repeated order. Contractors start recommending your product. Production becomes more predictable. Your factory develops routine. You are no longer wondering whether the business will survive. Now, you are learning how to manage it. Then we move over to stage 3, expansion. So at this stage, once your foundation becomes stable, growth begins. You may introduce new products, increase production capacity, purchase better equipment, hire additional staff, expand your customer base, enter neighboring cities or countries, or even supply large projects. You are going to notice something important. Expansion flows stability, not the other way round. The 4th stage, systemization. This is where many businesses either grow or become overwhelmed. As orders increase, you can no longer depend on memory. You need system, production record, quality control procedure, inventory management, financial reporting, staff responsibility, standard operating procedures. Because professional paint manufacturers don't rely on people remembering what to do. They build systems that produce consistently. Now, the fifth stage is legacy. Eventually, your business become bigger than you. You build a recognized brand. Your product enter new market. Your factory creates employment. Your business supports families. Your knowledge is transferred into the next generation. At this stage, you are no longer simply manufacturing paint. You are building an institution. That's the difference between owning a business and creating a legacy. So for some of us that are watching, be it my student, be it an already existing paint manufacturer, maybe you're already producing and you're watching this video right now, have you seen that you don't need to be frustrated? They have different stages as a paint manufacturer grows to operate. So let me know what stage are you presently, and also remember that it is going to be fun through the process. You just have to love every stage you are operating presently. And again, you need the right mentorship, guidance to guide you through every stage, because we all pass through that stage. We've been there, we've learned, we are still learning, and we'll keep continue learning to become a better paint manufacturer. So one mistake I say often is entrepreneur believing growth only means producing more liters. Production matters, but real growth is much broader. Growth also means better quality, better customer service, better management, better financial control, better branding, better staff development, better relationship with suppliers, better distribution, because if production grows but management doesn't, the business becomes more difficult to control. Professional paint manufacturer grow every part of the business together. As your factory grow, you will discover something important. You cannot do everything yourself forever. At the beginning, you may produce, you may package, you deliver yourself, you sell by yourself, you answer customer calls, you keep financial records, purchase raw materials yourself, but eventually, growth requires people. You will need production staff, sales representative, store manage, laboratory technician, drivers, accountants, supervisors. Leadership becomes just as important as manufacturing. So professional paint manufacturer don't only build products, they also build a team. Just like most of the times when most people enroll for our courses, they expect to meet me, converse with them, or I communicate with them one-on-one, or when most of my students try to reach out with me and they see other people or staff that we are working together as a team reach out to them, they become confused and they're like, Coach Glina, I thought I was going to meet you. No, we've gone above or beyond that stage where you have to meet me or communicate with me. I might not be presently in the country at that time. I might be undergoing a professional training. I might be with other team at that time. I might also be with our partners, which are not in the country. You understand? So when you grow, you have to work as a team. You have to employ a team. You have to have partners. You have to educate them. Most of our staffs on our team are also paint chemists. You understand? So most of the times we also get jobs. We get jobs to supply paint. We get jobs for contracts. You understand? And in most cases, I might not be there presently, but the job work perfectly. You understand? Because like I said, we have staffs, we have partners, we have other board of trustees, we have people that we work together. You understand? And most of the times, I may not actually be the one communicating even with my students when we chat, but my students definitely know my language of communication. And when I'm talking to them, they know that this is Coach Glina. When I don't talk to them, they just carry with the flow. Eventually, when I start communicating with them, they know that this is me. At times, most of my teaching here on YouTube have been recorded previous months for my community to come on board and watch accordingly, because we have other things that we are doing. You understand? So many people dream of fully automated factory. Automation is valuable, but it shouldn't become your first priority. Your first priority is building a business that constantly generates demand. As production increases, automation becomes a tool that improves efficiency, not shortcut to success. Remember, machine don't create customer. Customer creates the need for more machine. So another lesson every growing manufacturer learn is that a factory can only grow as far as its distribution network allows. You can manufacture excellent paint, but if your product only reach one neighborhood, your growth remains limited. That is why successful paint manufacturers gradually build dealership, distributors, retail partners, contractors relationship, commercial accounts, regional market. The wider your distribution, the greater your opportunity to grow. Over the years, I have noticed something interesting. The manufacturers who achieve long-term success rarely grow by accident. They follow a pattern. I call it the Glina growth formula. Number 1, learn. They understand the business before rushing to expand. 2, produce. They deliver products people trust. 3, improve. They listen to customers and strengthening their system. 3, sales. They increase capacity only when demand justify it. And the second is lead. They build a company that can grow beyond their professional involvement. Growth is not one giant leap. It is a series of well-managed steps. You see, when I started my own journey, I didn't wake up one morning with a complete manufacturing company. Yes, I started where many beginners start. Learning, making mistakes, improving, building confidence, meeting new people, training students, solving production problems. Every experiences become another brick in the foundation. Looking back, I am grateful I didn't try to skip the process, because every lesson helped shape the system I teach today. Sometimes people only see the finished building. They don't see the years spent laying the foundation. I could remember when I trained my first student on paint manufacturing. They didn't even know they were my first student I was training. The reason is because I've learned a lot, I've practiced a lot, I've done a lot of mistakes, I've studied enough, and I decided that, okay, my mentor used to tell me that, Glina, you're good at teaching. And I remember he usually used to send his own student he has trained to come and meet me for me to retrain them. And I'll be like, but this is my boss. He's actually my own mentor. And these people actually knew that I was his student. And it's not that I've been his student for so many years. I'm also a student that he's just training, or he has trained. You understand? So when I eventually trained my first students, they were amazed. They thought that I've gotten this qualification over the years. I was training and I was studying. And during my training process, I became a paint chemist. And I'm also studying. You understand? The same process with my student. When my student create their first product, they are always amazed. They eventually quickly send me videos and they'll be happy, Coach Glina, I've done my production and it's perfect. And yes, it is perfect. And do you know why? Because they have studied, they followed instruction, they listened to my guidance. So whenever they do their first production, it's usually perfect. And even when they supply it into the market, or they put it at a store, or they give it to a painter to use, they are usually amazed when they get the feedback from whoever is using the product, and they will be surprised. Most of the times they'll just tell themselves, this thing is simple. Now just this thing this lady taught me, but it is not simple. The reason it's simple is because you were taught by someone that has passed through series of mistakes, and you are going straight to that finish stage and you are listening. You understand? So life is all about learning, like I said, and a lot of people don't see the years spent laying that foundation. They only absorb the finishing stage. You understand? So if there is one lesson I want you to remember from this explanation, is that don't focus on building the biggest factory. Focus on building the strongest system, because factory can be expanded, machine can be upgraded, building can become larger, but weak system eventually create weak business. Strong system create sustainability growth, and sustainability growth create lasting manufacturing company. Now, we have answered the biggest question every beginner asks. What is the paint manufacturing business? What product should you manufacture? What raw material do you need? How do you identify chemical anywhere in the world? How do you build your factory? How much capital do you need? How do you produce quality paint? How do manufacturers make money? How do you build a brand? And finally, how do manufacturers grow? At this point, you probably realize something. Starting a paint manufacturing business isn't really about learning formula. It's about understanding an entire manufacturing system. And once you understand that system, you stop thinking like someone trying to make paint and start thinking like someone building a manufacturing company. That's exactly where we are heading to, because understanding alone doesn't build business, implementation does. So now our final explanation, we are going to bring everything together. I will share the biggest lesson I have learned after years in the paint manufacturing industry, the mindset professional paint manufacturers develop, how our community continue learning today, and how you can take the next practical step towards building your own paint manufacturing business wherever you are in the world. You have seen something important. Starting a paint manufacturing business isn't really about learning formula. Like I said, it's about understanding an entire manufacturing system. Throughout this explanation from the beginning, we have answered the question that most beginners ask, like I also just mentioned. What is the paint manufacturing business? How do you understand your local market? Which products should you manufacture? What are the raw materials? How do chemical names change around the world? So what kind of factory do you need? How much capital should you start with? How do you maintain quality? How do manufacturers make money? How do you build a brand? And finally, how do manufacturers grow? If you've watched this video from the beginning to the end, you have probably realized something. Building a paint manufacturing business is much bigger than simply mixing chemicals. It is about understanding how every part of the business works together. And that's exactly where successful paint manufacturers separate themselves from everyone else. One of the biggest lessons I have learned over the years is this: factories rarely fail because they cannot make paint. Most factories fail because they focus only on production. They believe if I can make a good paint, customer will automatically come. Unfortunately, business doesn't work that way. A successful paint company is built on much more than production. It needs market research, reliable suppliers, quality control, financial management, branding, distribution, customer relationship, continuous improvement. These are the systems that keeps a factory alive. Production is only one department. The business is much bigger than the production room. And that is why I always encourage entrepreneurs to stop thinking like a mixer and start thinking like a manufacturer, because manufacturers don't simply produce products, they build businesses. One thing I have noticed again after working with entrepreneurs from different countries is that professional paint manufacturers think differently. Beginners often ask, Coach Glina, what is the best paint formula? That's not a bad question, but it is not the first question professional asks. Professional paint manufacturer asks different questions. One, what problem am I solving? Is my customer trying to protect a roof, improve home appearances, prevent rust, waterproof a building, reduce maintenance costs? Once they understand the problem, they ask, what market am I serving? Who is my customer? Are they homeowners, painters, contractors, property developers, government projects, industrial company? Then they ask another important question. What system am I building? Can I produce consistently quality paint? Can I repeat the same result every batch? Can my factory continue growing without depending entirely on me? Do I have reliable suppliers? Can my pricing support long-term growth? Professional paint manufacturers think beyond today's production. They think about tomorrow's business. That is the mindset that creates sustainable companies. One of the things that has encouraged me most over the years is seeing entrepreneurs from so many different countries learning together. Some are just starting, some already own paint businesses, some are painters, some are contractors, some are engineers, some are chemical traders, some are simply curious about manufacturing. Different countries, different culture, different budget, different background, but one manufacturing mindset. Learning together, growing together, helping one another avoid expensive mistakes. Because none of us know everything, and manufacturing continues to evolve. That is exactly why this community exists, not just to share formula, but to build understanding. If you've been enjoying this video and you have seriously ready about improving your paint manufacturing knowledge, I would like to invite you to consider joining our YouTube channel membership. Inside the membership, we go beyond we can cover in the public video. We discuss production technique in great depth. We troubleshoot common manufacturing problems. We explore quality control. We analyze raw materials. We look beyond the scene of factory system, and we continue learning together as a manufacturing community. We also share paint formulation step by step, the right measurement, and of course the production process of different types of paint, because becoming a better manufacturer is continuous journey, not one time event. And if your goal isn't simply to learn about paint, but to build your own paint manufacturing business, then the Complete Paint Manufacturing Business PMB course was created for people exactly like you. Inside the PMB course, we don't teach one formula for every country because the approach doesn't work globally. Instead, we help you understand your own country market, your local supply, equivalent chemical name, raw material availability, factory planning, production system, quality control, costing, pricing, branding, distribution, business registration, and growth strategy. Everything is adapted to your own country current market conditions. Whether you are in Africa, Europe, North America, Asia, or anywhere else, we also help you translate the formulation to your own country languages. The goal isn't simply to copy a formulation. The goal is to build a manufacturing business that fits your environment, because every country has different opportunities and every entrepreneur deserves a system that can apply locally. Now that you understand the big picture, the next video answer one of the biggest questions every beginner asks: what paint product should you start manufacturing first in your country, and why? Should you begin with wall primer, emulsion paint, economic matte paint, ceiling white paint, gloss enamel paint, acrylic exterior paint, or something completely different? I will show you how experienced paint manufacturers decide which product to launch first, instead of trying to manufacture everything at once, because choosing the right product line can save you money, reduce unnecessary risks, and help you build steady cash flow much faster. If you've ever wondered, Coach Glina, where should I actually begin? You won't want to miss this next training. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which country are you watching from? And if you were starting a paint manufacturing business today, what would be your biggest challenge? Would it be finding raw materials, understanding formulation, factory setup, capital, marketing, or something completely different? Leave your answer in the comments below. I personally read many of your comments, and they often inspire future training on this YouTube channel, because some of our best videos started as questions from viewers just like you. Before we end, I would like you to remember something. The paint manufacturing business has changed many lives, not because it is easy, but because it is practical. Every community needs building, every building needs protection. Every structure eventually needs maintenance. Every market creates opportunity for manufacturers who are prepared. Whether you're choosing to start small or build something much larger over time, never forget that lasting businesses are built through consistent learning, carefully planning, disciplined execution, and continuous improvement. Don't rush to become the biggest manufacturer. Focus on becoming a better manufacturer, because better manufacturers naturally build better businesses. Remember, paint manufacturing is not just about making paint. It is about understanding your market, building reliable system, creating products people trust, managing a profitable business, and building a company that can create jobs, saving the community, and become a family legacy for generations to come. Because here at Glina Paint Education, we don't just teach people how to make paint. We teach entrepreneurs how to think like a manufacturer, learn, understand, manufacture, and succeed. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with someone who wants to start a paint manufacturing business wherever in the world, and continue with the next video episode in the paint manufacturing business global startup series. The link is going to be in the description below. Remember, paint manufacturing is local, the system is global. So wherever you are in the world, you can learn paint manufacturing business and build your own successful, profitable paint brand. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.